This one in, one out scheme is a lot of old cobblers, really, isn't it? But what do you make of how it's going to work and what you're hearing about whether there's going to be big challenges to moving people out of the country?
Well, I think the one in, one out asylum swap is legally frail and practically incoherent because, yeah, well, it is, and I'll explain.
I mean, listen, I don't disagree with you. I'm rather pleased to hear that.
I mean, it conflicts with international refugee protection standards, and it exposes us to inevitable human rights litigation. In fact, you remember it mirrors the fatal flaws of the Rwanda plan. Courts will certainly intervene to halt removals, and that's going to leave the government with expensive legal defeats and a worsening asylum crisis. Moreover, there's no legal mechanism for compelling France to guarantee the fair treatment of individuals returned by the UK. You remember the Rwanda plan, the Supreme Court said exactly that. And that was in 2023, where the Supreme Court says the UK can't outsource its refugee protection obligations under the convention without cast iron legal safeguards. Yeah. It's a problem.
The problem, of course, as well, Ivon, is that we have no detail, really, of any kind about this scheme. You know, we had Yvette Cooper, when she was Home Secretary, telling us that they had detained some people back at the sort of middle first week of August, right? But they didn't say how many people they detained. They didn't say where they were detaining them. They didn't say, you know, on what grounds they were detaining them, because they clearly didn't detain everyone. They only detained a few. And then they didn't really explain if they are going to send these people back, however many there are, who's going to qualify to come in their place? It's not clear how any of it works.
Yeah, we don't know what the mechanism is. I mean, the courts have consistently struck down collective policies. And what the courts don't like is for the government not to consider individual cases.
Yeah.
And that's always been legally flawed. I mean, you can't just have a collective policy because everyone's case is slightly different.
Of course.
And so I think there's going to be a problem. They need to relook at this. And we need to know what the mechanism is for France considering the asylum claims of people we send back. We can't just, I mean, legally speaking, Mike, okay, we can't simply send people to France and say, not a problem anymore, your problem. The law doesn't allow you to do that. I've always said that we need to rip up the Refugee Convention. We need to relook at it because it doesn't fulfill the reasons why we got into it in the first place in 1951, right, was to protect political refugees. We had probably about 2 in 51 applications, and it's been expanded to include anyone fleeing any sort of persecution. Right. It wasn't the purpose.
It's not fit for purpose, is it? Simple as that.
No, it's not. We need to relook at it. We need to rip that up and start from scratch, have our own Act of Parliament which deals with the problems with the current convention.
Well, according to the Labour government, they say they've got a deal with France for them to take back these people, and they've got a deal with France for them to supply us with other people to take their places in whichever hotel they're going to be put in.
Well, look, we've got 100,000 backlog already of asylum applications. And, you know, please forgive me, but my mathematics tells me, I'm not great at math, I was more an arts guy, but if you bring one in and one out, it doesn't reduce the numbers.
No.
The numbers remain exactly the same. And in fact, if we had exactly...
No, you see, you're right, you're not good at maths because the numbers don't stay the same, the numbers go up by 1.
Well, as I said, even if we removed every single person, so for every one that came across, we were going to put one back, we're still in the same position. So at the moment, we're actually bringing 16 in and 1 out.
Yeah.
So,
except the 1 out isn't going out because there's another one coming in for the 1 going out. So it's actually 16 plus another 1 is 17.
Exactly. Yeah.
I can show you my workings if you like. You know how they used to say, please show your workings. I feel like I should tell them. You know, but also this is typical of Labour government. They call it 1 in, 1 out. So they think if everybody calls it that, that's what they'll think it is. That's not what it is.
We just need sensible policies that will work.
Yeah.
The only thing that's going to work is having our own people on the French side, stopping these people from getting on the boats.
Yeah.
And on top of that, we need to have a safe legal route for genuine asylum seekers. Look, Mike, I know you're a fair person. You've got a warm heart for genuine asylum seekers. We need to take our fair share. What that is, that's a political debate that needs to be.
Well, see, that's also, it's an emotive phrase, isn't it? Our fair share, because I would say that there are a number of ways of working out what the fair share is, and one of the things used to calculate that should be the density and the population of all European countries, and quite frankly, ours is pretty much full up.
No, I agree. I don't think we're not as big as France and Germany, who take on about 100,000 a year. But there is a number. That's a political debate. That needs to be debated in Parliament. I think, people will have their views about it. People like Migration Watch and journalists like yourself.
Yeah, and people like all the people that marched around in London on Saturday, most of whom are decent members of society who just want to make sure that their country is not changing before their very eyes, because everybody doesn't mind a bit of immigration, but the way that it's been run for the last several years, probably the last couple of decades, has been ridiculous.
Look, I've always said, don't blame these people coming across on the boat.
I'm not blaming them. I'm just saying that we've got a situation which is not sustainable.
Absolutely, and I agree. And for once, we're protesting at the right place, not outside asylum hotels. You're protesting outside Parliament, because that's the people that are responsible for the mess that we're in.
Yes. But to be fair to the people protesting outside migrant hotels, if you're living in an area where people are getting sexually assaulted by the people in those hotels, you might want to ask them to be moved.
Well, I think that's, again, a decision for Parliament and for the government. And the sensible thing to do is move them onto MOD.
Yeah, well, they should never have put them there in the first place, should they?
Indeed. That policy by the Tories was just it's a knee-jerk reaction, because they didn't have anywhere them to go. And there was also litigation on the MOD sites as well. A
lot of it happened during COVID as well, when they didn't know what else to do with them. But again, because of the sheer numbers, it's all become overwhelmed. The whole system is just out of control.
I mean, it's just common sense not to put an asylum seeker in a 5-star hotel. It's just common sense. The cost of it is horrendous.
I know.
I think the government really, it was a knee-jerk reaction. They had no other choice. But it's not proper, sustainable planning, proper systems in place and accommodation to deal with the numbers, which they well knew the numbers.
Yeah.
The government knew the numbers that were coming, and yet they did not make plans. There was no sustainable plan that they had to house these people.
No, and that is the problem. Listen, Ivon, thank you very much.